I'm Tanveen Rati. The topic today is hand spinning matters, especially now as the migrants are making the long and difficult trek back. What are the opportunities that await them back home? This is our topic today. Uh, Before we begin, I request everyone to please mute your audio and close your video. And for everyone's information, this session is being recorded. Aishwarya, request you to share screen and play the video.
The charkha or spinning wheel has been a concrete symbol of rural self-sufficiency. During the colonial period, hybridization was propagated with New World fibers to suit production mills in Britain and later India. The old techniques of crafting fabric went out of practice from the mainstream. This slowly led to weaver becoming dependent on a fluctuating external market for raw material. Many small artisans were unable to cope with the changing markets and therefore remained marginalized. Eventually, many craftspeople let go of their traditional occupations after industrialization and unfavorable conditions. Many organizations across India are working for revival of these local value chains with the indigenous communities. The hand spinners play a vital link between the primary producers and weavers. Hand spinning makes the textile value chain environmentally sustainable. It generates livelihoods by bringing work closer to home for women.
Our panel today is a very special panel, passionate about their work, and they inspire ideas and new ways of working. Poludas Nagendra Satish, a printmaker and designer. He completed his post-graduation from NID, National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad. Satish has an extensive knowledge and expertise in working with textile and craft sectors in eastern and southern regions of India. He has great enthusiasm to make opportunities available to people, and that enthusiasm is highly infectious. So beware of him today. Satish founded and leads Cora Design Collaborative, a design and research practice initiated by designers, technicians, and master craftspersons. Cora works on practical application of the principles of ecology, a decentralized system with a focus on understanding naturally available raw materials, local skill, and least capital energy to create sustainable livelihoods. With an objective to renew the deep ecological, cultural, and historical link between people and the ecosystem. Our second panelist is Ghatit Lehru, our director at Khamir. Ghatit has been associated with Khamir since the last 10 years in various capacities and now holds the position of director. He studied journalism and then management of non-profits. Ghatit is a Gandhian at heart. He believes in decentralized production and has been interested in khadi since early on. Ghatit was one of the lead members of the Kala Cotton team and now an active promoter of hand spinning in cotton and wool in Kutch. And finally, Sushma Iyengar. Welcome, Sushma. Sushma has just jumped in from another meeting into this. Thank you for coming and joining. Sushma is a social worker, activist, and educator. In the last 3 decades, she has worked with marginalized communities, indigenous cultures, traditional livelihoods, gender justice, and post-disaster rehabilitation. She founded in the late 80s Kutch Mahila Vikas Sangathan, a women's collective, and its offshoot Kasab, who create the most gorgeous embroidered products. She has pioneered many grassroots initiatives, including the first community radio run by rural women in India, and piloted the first successful community-run resort, Shame Sarad. Absolutely stunning. Much like a serial entrepreneur, she has founded and co-founded Kutch Nav Nirman Abhiyan, a network of civil societies, Setu, to work on local governance issues, K-Link, to make information and communication technologies accessible and applicable to development needs, and Khameer, a platform for rural artisans which works to promote their traditional practices within the ecosystem. She is the lead curator of Living Lightly, Journey with Pastoralists exhibition. Here today, she represents the importance of indigenous communities and land-based livelihoods. To begin our program, we have a small introduction about spinning in India. Over to you, Ghatit and Satish. Ghatit, your audio is mute.
Yeah. So, Satish, you start.
No, I think it's your call, and I'll take time to get into it.
Okay. So, Khameer's own journey with spinning started with the Kala Cotton initiative. We started this initiative in 2010, and initially it was conceived as a local value chain, which include the farmers, spinners, weavers, dyers, and printers. And the first spell of spinning was being done in Saurashtra. At that time, there was no spinning in Kutch was there. And then we started spinning in Kutch in a slightly later on, and it was on Ambar Charkha. For a long time period, we believe that Ambar Charkha can only be a viable medium of spinning. Then when we started working with wool, we started working with the actual hand spinning. There is a difference between Ambar Charkha spinning and the purest form of spinning, which we called. When we started working with Desi wool, we started using the oldest form of charkha that was available in Kutch. And that inspired us to again start working with the hand spinning in its purest form. And many people have inspired us in this process. Archana Ben Shah, she gave us initial guidance, and of course Satish helped us a lot. At present, we are working with 75 cotton spinners, and we are working with 100 or so wool spinners in Kutch. And it is a remarkable achievement that we are working with 175 sort of spinners now. And we wish to increase this, and because this is Gandhi's 150th birth year also, we want to increase this, and we want to work with more number of spinners. Okay.
Yeah. So I will talk about various activities across east as well as south. So where I am involved, as even those who I am very familiar with. So I try to give some idea about all of these. So first of all, India, our country is very interesting place where one can experience traveling back in time. Now, even now, if you travel, explore around in different places, we can still experience the evolution of any skill or process, and imagine how it would have been happened over a period of time. So this is I think this is very clear, because when we started our journey of hand spinning, so there were many doubts. So how it would have started, how it would have happened, and all. There were so many doubts. So, but India is such a beautiful place where different places. In Jharkhand, when you go, you see a primitive spindle where woman is spinning the yarn. If you go to northeast, you have another set of cotton. How a small tool she uses to spin the yarn. So, and then when you come to Andhra, it's a very elaborate, very detailed process of pre-spinning process as well as hand spinning. And when it comes to Bihar, it's more of mechanized initial process and how they take it up forward to spinning. So spinning, or especially when it comes to hand spinning as a process, which is still practiced in some parts of the country, and I have seen like in many parts, it is picking up. There are many people who are thinking about hand spinning. The only reason of doing it is thinking of it as a huge livelihood opportunity. So that is one of the reasons where I have seen a lot of people, even in Andhra as well as in Telangana. So there are a lot of people who want to get back to spinning. I want to first of all, when I want to start with Northeast, especially with Nagaland, where there are two of my friends who are working on hand spinning or hand spinning products. Basically, it is a very simple, basic knife format of spinning. What we see there, they pluck cotton pods, separate seeds, make puni out of hand, and spin yarn. Even now, if you go anywhere, you'll find a group of people sitting together practicing spinning and singing song. It was very, very evident. So people who have come to Chirala conference, they would have seen them performing, doing two performances at a time. One is hand spinning and one is while singing some song. The cotton used is usually tree cotton and locally made spindles to make yarn. The yarn designed is usually thicker, which suits their living conditions. That's what they usually do. In contrary, if you look into Andhra spinning, it is very surprising because this is something what we recently discovered. So we found around more than 17 villages where there are nearly 3,000 women, more than 3,000 women who know the skill of spinning, and it's a very fine spinning of cotton. It's a very traditional way which has been doing, they are doing since long time, and the process is elaborate, detailed, and time consuming. The cotton fibers are combed, straightened using fish jaw bone with multiple seeds, multiple teeth in it. So to take it to further ginning, where you separate seed from fiber. The tools, each and every tool what they use for this process are selectively picked so that there is no damage caused to the seed, because they know the importance of the seed. Because more in Bihar or any other place, we don't give much importance to seed, because we just our interest is cotton, and to spin yarn is our main interest. But in Ponduru or in Srikakulam, in many villages in Srikakulam, they are very particular about seed and the tools what they use, so that it won't hurt the seed. Yeah.
Satish, don't give the Srikakulam story yet. We will. You have the video, so
Okay.
it would be nice when you explain it with the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And so then I'll just carry on with the Bihar thing as well as Tamil Nadu thing.
Yes,
Okay.
please. And then we show our Punjab film, the short 15-second film.
Yeah. So Bihar is another place where my interest of towards hand spinning developed when I started working with Srijni Foundation. Women actually do spinning, but they do spinning from sliver. What they get it from sliver plant. They call it as tape. Basically, the tape is given to women and they spin the yarn. Each woman spins tape into different counts, for which they are paid per kilo price they are paid. So but the cotton what they use here is mostly BT cotton or hybrid cotton, which because it is processed in big sliver plants, sophisticated machines which only accommodate these cotton, not any indigenous cotton. It is a skill that is revived back after 40 years to function. Since last 4 years, there might be around 300 women who have started spinning again. And in Bengal, I found someone called Shamal Ghosh in Navadip Dham, who have the capability of making the finest count cotton yarn, which comes to around 600 count, which they use old lumber charkas to do it. So it's a very interesting find. We are yet to work with him. So we will be working with him soon. In Tamil Nadu, Swaminathan is doing some work in indigenous cotton variety called Karungani, and making yarn in collaboration with some Khadi societies. So apart from that, there are many people like Saumik Banerjee who is working to get back these indigenous cotton varieties and perennial cotton varieties back to production. And many people support like Karuna Tai, Sanjeev ji from Bihar, Prasad Rao ji and Bhanuja ji from Andhra Pradesh, Amita ji from Jharkhand. So there are many people who are looking. And now I see with all these people support and organizations, support of peoples and organizations, especially after these COVID times, I see a great future for this indigenous cotton and local spinning, which is right for this country like India now than ever. So that's what I particularly feel.
Great. Thank you, Satish. Before I come to you, Sushma, we have a short film that Roopsi Garg from the Kheti Virasat Mission has sent us. Aishwarya, could you please share your screen and show the small clipping that we have?
And after that, Roopsi is here also. She can share for a 2 minute or some. Yeah.
Thanks, Aishwarya.
Yeah.
Ghatit, are you getting Roopsi to?
She's
Yes,
there
Roopsi, yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Roopsi. Hi.
Hi.
So we started doing this work 2 years ago. We had organic cotton with us because Kheti Virasat Mission is working with organic farmers. And then we got its hand spinning done by rural women. And we have been using these desi charkhas only. We haven't done any changes yet. So we didn't use any amber charkha, any box charkha. So traditionally, what spinners used to do in Punjab, we have been spinning on that only. But the limitation that we are facing right now is that this yarn we are not able to use in warp. In weft, we can use it for making coarser fabric because this yarn has a count of about 3, 4, 5, 6. We are able to get a count of 10 on this desi charkha, but not beyond that. So I sent some yarn to Satish ji also. I think he is doing some experimentation with our yarn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think once I received, the lockdown is on, so I could not do much with that.
Yeah.
But Roopsi, are you using the indigenous cotton, local cotton?
No.
Yes.
Is it the cotton what you're talking is indigenous cotton?
It's non-BT. It's non-hybrid desi cotton. It is. Yeah. It's improved variety from the university.
Thanks,
Okay.
Roopsi.
Thanks for
very much.
joining.
Thank you very much for your discussion. I would like to move on to Sushma right now. Sushma, we have this very important question from you regarding what are land-based livelihoods and how are they connected with spinning, and why is this value chain important?
So Tanveen, I think Satish repeatedly mentioned indigenous cotton, and even the question that Ghatit just now asked Roopsi. So we have tended to generally look at spinning as something which is serving the weaving at the most, so in a sense to activate weavers' livelihoods, to ensure that we get yarn, we get textiles. But of course the material is cotton or wool, and the fact that this is a full value chain which creates livelihoods at all ends, beginning with the farmer, beginning with the pastoralist, the spinners and the weavers. And in a sense, the spinner holds the two ends together, balances the two ends. And I think as we move along, we will let's try and have a conversation about the economics of this whole thing.
Right.
Because whenever one wants to buy, whenever one talks of hand spun cloth, immediately the issue is that, oh, this is very expensive. So what is expensive? At what point is it expensive, and why is it expensive?
Right.
And who is it not expensive for? So we'll get into this as you move on.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you, Sushma. Here we have this fantastic movie that Satish has shared about the spinning from Srikakulam. Once we play it, Satish, will you please run us through the process also?
Sure.
Yeah. Aishwarya, request you to please play the film. Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, sure.
Satish, you have to explain this.
Yeah. The cotton what you are seeing there is hill cotton. It's an indigenous cotton of Andhra basically. She is trying to after she separate the cotton from the pod, she is trying to straighten the fibers along with the seed and doing ginning basically, removing seed from. She's taking out the seeds and then she's separating fibers. So the each fiber is separated and they are passed through this small tool. So where they make sure that each fiber is parallel to each other. So it's a continuous process where she continue doing these two processes again and again till she gets a very even arrangement of the fibers. So she again separating the fibers. So she does it for 3-4 times. And once it is done, she makes it into a puni. She makes it into a puni, and this puni, she don't directly touch the puni like any other cluster. She guards it with a banana stem support, and then she started spinning. So here, when you look into this, the overall process, it looks simple, but it's a very elaborate process. She takes to make 1,000 meters of yarn. She'll take 8 to 9 hours, the whole day basically. So it's a very tedious process, and she needs a lot of concentration and focus to make this fine count yarn. And one hang, what you're seeing there, weighs around 10 grams, which is 100 count, as per 100 scale, as per the detail. So that one hang, what you're seeing in that video, will take one day, and she'll be only able to make 1,000 meters in one day.
Wow. Over to you, Sushma, now to have a conversation between both these points that we were talking. One about the missing link that hand spinning may sort of connect, and secondly about the khadi. You're on mute.
Sorry. Satish, if I can just pick up from where you stopped, can you just share how much does that woman, for instance, earn in a day?
See, she earns 106 rupees per one lachi, one hang, if it is 100 count. If the count is little thicker, she will be earn around 90 or 86 or something.
Right.
So it's like that.
And where are they drawing the cotton from?
So they, in few instances, they have their crop in their backyard where they collect cotton, or if they have 2 acres of land, they make sure that half quarter acre is left for this cotton to grow, or there is other option where there are few farmers come to the spinners to sell the cotton.
Oh, nice. And this is the desi cotton.
This is indigenous cotton.
Yeah.
Desi indigenous cotton. So you have 2 kinds of cotton. in Andhra, which just sustained because of this hand spinning process. One is red cotton and one is hill cotton. There are around more than 40 varieties, but only 2 sustain now, and that too because of this hand spinning activity which continued till now.
Yeah. So, so Tanveen, I think this is at the heart of it, and what Ghatit shared earlier, vis-a-vis the Kutch and the Kala cotton. We talk of the wool too, but you know, when you look at when we keep saying that this is environmentally friendly, you know, what do we really mean? And we really, if one looks at whether it is Srikakulam or in Kutch, for instance, let me give the example of Kutch, that the Desi cotton here grows in maybe you know, 9 inches of rainfall or less, and it is completely without any pesticide. So even if it's not certified organic, it is naturally organic. But what's important, and I think because we are today so inundated with the other cotton, with BT cotton and with hybridized cotton. So if I can just give an example of how much it costs the farmer to grow 1 acre of indigenous cotton, and how much does it cost a farmer to grow 1 acre of BT cotton. So for instance, in Kutch, 1 acre, which is almost 800 kilos of indigenous cotton, costs the farmer an investment of about 4,700 to 5,000 rupees. In the same region, in the irrigated farms, you bring in BT cotton, and it costs the farmer almost 46,000 rupees investment. Yeah, to do that. Now you look at what is the net profit. So in a good year, a Desi cotton farmer will have invested 4,600 and will get a net profit of 9,000 rupees. A BT cotton farmer will have invested 46,000 and will, in a good, after all, the fertilizer, the cost is high because it's fertilizers, pesticides, electricity, water. And water, where it comes from, so for instance, if it's coming from Narmada, that is not even costed. That's not even costed into this. It's whatever water he's getting from his farm by doing a bore well or the electricity. Right. That 46,000 investment will finally actually get him or her return, a net profit all said and done in a good year. So the net profit they get is actually totally almost half of what they've invested.
You need to say the net profit.
In a sense, so it is a net profit, right?
We missed it. You need to say the net profit figure you got.
The net profit for a BT farmer after investing 46,000 is about 23,000. Now, what we tend to, and this is all just we are costing what we can see. What we tend to not even assess and calculate is the cost to the environment. You know, so when we are looking at a hand spun cloth, and all hand spun cloth is not necessarily from indigenous cotton, but since Satish and Ghatit and we are all talking about indigenous cotton to begin with here, when you look at indigenous cotton, we are not even counting the cost of BT cotton to the environment. We are just costing what it costs the farmer for the inputs. Right. So when we talk of that, these indigenous, whether it's Srikakulam or in Kutch, the Kala cotton, that it's environment friendly, it is because it is that begins from the farm, right? And then it comes to the hand spinning. So when we say hand spun is expensive, we are actually only looking at the labor of the hand spinning and the weaver. We are not looking at the fact that actually that indigenous cotton is grown at a far cheaper rate than the other cotton. Right. So what fascinates me is to really start bringing this entire chain together, you know, and you learn so much of what you wear if you really bring this whole chain together, other than the fact that you get a wonderful fiber. And, you know, we all speak, of course, we all go back to khadi and spinning, and the nearest reference point to all of us is Gandhiji. Right. And it is so interesting that Gandhiji's spinning movement actually began almost exactly 100 years ago, in 1918 to 1920, which was exactly also the period when the Spanish flu was completely rampant.
Yes.
And exactly 100 years ago, 100 years later, in a similar situation where we have seen so many millions, we have seen we've seen the misery of millions walking, the migrants and the wage laborers, without the basic dignity of labor or respect from us, from all of us. When I say us, I'm talking of society.
Yes.
We come back to Satish's point, that how do we start restoring the dignity of labor across through the farmers, but through spinning in a big way, because that spinning is spinning the short staple cotton of indigenous cotton.
Yes, I'm very keen to get Satish in here to also present his views on this.
I think Sushma is talking about farming. We are forgetting one more thing, like, because everybody say like hand spinning, money we have to pay more for hand spinning and all, but there is something, as a designer I'm talking, because so see, we make a lot of products. We make lots and lots of products. Where will all this material be, and where all these products go after 10 years? So as a designer, I keep designing products, produce it in numbers. What will all that be? So it is all going to be waste. So at least in these COVID times, it is important to realize as that we are as nature, not against nature. We are a part of, we are nature, basically. We have to understand that we are nature, and we should not work against nature. We should learn to see beyond beauty of any craft product, because beauty, what I personally feel after 15 years is, beauty will not let us see what is behind any craft product, because we always see.
Satish?
He froze.
Yes.
That's what I just got a call. I'm really sorry. So that's something which I because we should see beyond beauty of any craft product. That is very important. So it is what I personally think is, it is time to think of slowing production and doing sensible production. Think of these two alternatives. Thinking of these two alternatives is very crucial. Slow production and sensible production alternatives are right at this point of time, because see, everything has its positives as well as negatives. So if you think of an industry who can make 1 crore meters a day of yarn, and what they make is a similar kind of yarn of such big production. But when it comes to hand spinning yarn, it can be very, very special, exclusive, because by changing, because it's just a change in gear in the mind. You just tell a lady like you want high twist yarn, she can make it. You tell her to make a thicker yarn, she can make it. So there are a lot of variation what she can make it by just thinking about it, which is not possible in any machine. And especially in Amba Charkha also there are these issues. So it is nowhere good, because there is no flexibility in Amba Charkha yarn. Yeah.
Two questions. One is between you and first about the Amba Charkha, which could you explain why is Amba Charkha not completely hand spun? Like for all of us who don't understand spinning so well, why are isn't we think that Amba Charkha is also hand spinning? Could you please explain that difference of Amba Charkha versus hand spinning?
So after cultivation, what happens? The cotton has to go to an industry, because see, cultivation happens in a village, weaving happens in a village. Amba Charkhas are also in a village, but people never miss out one important link in between, because Amba Charkha, once the cotton is cultivated, it has to go a long way for ginning and conversion of roving. So and this particular process need because to process all this, you need high equipped machines which only supports this long staple fiber. So all these machines are made for that fiber only. So it has, over a period of time, even Amba Charkha, which is supposed to be for the welfare of domestic production and local economy. So it work in other way around, where it has completely killed our what you call as indigenous cotton or local cotton.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Sushma, would you like to say something? Are you going to say something?
Yeah, I know. I wanted to ask Satish to also come in because we are talking about farmers and cotton, but our country has such a range of spinning techniques and very simple while on the move with wool and with pastoralists who are on the move. And a lot of our wool was actually hand spun by the pastoralists themselves. And Telangana and Andhra has a very rich tradition of it, just as even Kutch and the Himalayas and other parts of Deccan. So, if Satish can come in a little on that, on the spinning techniques of wool and spinning techniques.
I think our local techniques are always very simple, very basic. So they used local available material to make the tool, and by using it, they make because spinning is a regular activity for them. It's not a big special activity kind of thing. So in mostly if you look into wool spinning, so they still use spindles to do it. So the drop spindle where they keep walking and start throwing that spindle to spin the wool yarn and all that. So the technology was very simple, and they don't need to spend any money for tools, or what they need to put is the effort of spinning. That's it. So it was very evident in and the control used to remain with themselves, like because the goat used to be there, so whenever they want, the fiber used to come to them, so they always have a spindle, so they keep they know they keep making yarn, and they know who they have to give what kind of quality yarn to weave what. So it was the relationships around them, where there was never any confusion for them to how to go about what they want. But I think this new thing where we have missed out on many links in between, like spinning, you're saying spinning is a link what you have missed. So because of missing link, we see farming and weaving in isolation. We don't link them because we in NID also we are trained to look. I am told that you are a textile designer, you are only supposed to think textiles. So it took me so much time to unlearn things, to see the link between farming and weaving. So it's all that it's done, or it's happened over a period of time where we have missed out in between links.
Tanveen, can I come in?
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yes.
Yeah, in fact, what Satish is saying is very important because that's really in contemporary life. That's at the heart of it, where we have kind of put all our professions into silos. Communities don't live in silos. So an agriculturist is not interested in the rest of the value chain. Is interested only in the cotton. A designer or a craft person is really not interested in what is happening at the farm end. As long as a beautiful woven maybe hand spun product comes out. So really constantly linking up the whole value chain and seeing this as life, not our profession, is what needs to be revived. And I think that is what everybody is trying, whether it's in Punjab, and that's so heartening. While Gandhiji dealt with many issues and problems which are all still fully alive and are multiplying in our country, he was at least not burdened with one thing, and that was climate change and ecology. Right? He was not dealing. We are dealing with that, and that's why ensuring that we stop looking in silos now and actually look at the yarn across. But I think what I would want Khatit and Satish to also come in is on the costing of hand spinning, because I know everybody is struggling with this. That the person spinning it is not fully earning, and whatever they're earning actually increases the overall cost of the price. Now, is this a myth? This has to be worked on. Is it linked with demand and supply? Can we have a little conversation on that?
Yeah.
That is why then I will come.
Yeah. So when we are doing spinning with Ambar Charkha, the production is high. because Anbar Charkha, as we all know, it's a 6 spindle, 8 spindle, nowadays 10 spindle Charkha is also available. So the production is high and the prices can also, the spinner can get more. When we are doing it through hand spinning and a single spindle peti charkha, the capacity of a spinner reduces and the intensity of labor also reduces, because single spindle has an element of art into it, and in Ambar Charkha, it's only a labor work. So there is a difference in both the type of the system, and we are not seeing a spinner as a full-time worker here. So it is a majority of the spinner are the women, almost all of them. They do their household work and they get around 3 or 4 hours in afternoon or in evening, when they all, as Sati said, they all come together, they talk with each other, they sing songs, and they sort of produces the yarn in this process. So we are not seeing them as like 8-hour work or 10-hour work or 12-hour work. It's as per their convenience and flexibility. In where we are ensuring from Khamir is there that they should not need to travel, or there should not be any other expenses on their part. And we are now paying them as per the count. So there are counts which are available from 8 to 10 counts to these 17 counts, and we are paying them 10 rupees per count. So our maximum payment is around 170 rupees. And in intermediary, it is on an average, a spinner is earning 140 rupees per kg, in that range. Yeah.
See,
Yes.
I see the same issue in a very different perspective, because he's talking, Gatit is talking about Khamir and the clusters where he works. So when we have done some research on in around 84 villages, looking into women, like what they do and all that. So what we have found is, it's just not in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana. In most of the villages, apart from the field work, what they get to do during the time of agriculture, during the time of farming, so most of the women are idle. And I'll say like more than 75% of the women are idle. So what the only option what they have, initially they used to come out, talk and all that. These days they don't even do that. What they do is they sit idle in their places, watch television. That is the only option that is left to all these women. And I think spinning activity should not be seen as an activity to earn money. That is another thing also. But if somebody who does at least 5 hours ka kaam karega, if somebody works for 5 hours, I'm sure they'll be able to earn from 2,500 to 3,000 rupees. So that is not at all an issue, which is okay than sitting idle in their place, because they come together. Because it's few people may say it's exploitation, but I see it as a recreation thing, where group of few women come together, work together, talk about it, because it's a stress buster kind of workshop that will be built in the process, where they take out the stress, they do some productive work and go back home. So actually it's a very interesting thing for idle women in villages, for people like anybody, like, because if we think that anything, any craft product should be only produced by craftsmen, there is an issue, because every person, every human being should have their way of doing something by hand. That's what I personally think, because when you get, because everybody, it's like meditation, it will do a lot of good. Like you, I see a lot of people spending half an hour in meditation. Let us spend time in doing spinning. So for the people who think spinning, hand spun fabric product as a very exclusive, a very expensive thing, I think they themselves can weave it, because weaving don't cost you much. You make yarn, you find somebody like me, where we can get it woven and give it to you. So it's so simple. So hand spinning has a lot of potential, which I see, because it's just not an activity which gets you some money. it actually helps you like a meditation where you spend some time with it, and you will get time to spend with yourself. So you will be seeing yourself deep within yourself. So that is something which is very evident in spinning. I myself does spinning whenever I get time. I sit with spinners. So what you and I when they spin also things change. It's very evident in when what you see in clusters. That's what I feel.
Tanveen, just one quick.
Yes, please.
Tanveen, can I come
Yes,
in?
please.
Just a quick one. I know Gopi wants to ask a question, and many do. I completely agree with Satish that this cannot be just spinning as an activity, or even weaving, or even farming is an art, a science, and a way of life. But Satish, in all my forays in villages, I've actually seen more idle men than idle women. So I don't think the concept of idle woman actually exists. But nevertheless, we will take that up on some other time.
No. What
And
I'm
actually, if all the idle men start spinning, then we are really going to be in business.
I'm talking about everybody should spin.
Absolutely.
At least they should spend half an hour to spin. I am not, because I'm talking about Bihar and Andhra, where you have a lot of women sitting idle. So I'm talking about these places where I work. So I'm not considering every place.
I want to move on to this next part of this session about Khadi, the trademark of Khadi. And I open the floor to all three of you. At one level, we are saying more and more people should spin and indigenous cotton and create garments for weaving. On the other hand, there is a registration for Khadi, and I would like to hear your views. All of us, again, for the benefit of the consumer to understand what's happening with the product.
So let me start.
Yes.
I think before Gandhi's death, Gandhi prepared a framework for what should be an ideal charkha. Okay, and it has various parameters he has defined, and after that he got killed. So much after his death, this Ambar charkha was invented. And it was invented by a South Indian technologist called Ekambar Nath. That's why it was given a name of Ambar Charkha. And there are various views on this, that if Gandhi would have been alive by the time Ambar Charkha was invented, would he approve that or not? Because I have seen the initial Ambar Charkha, the prototype. It has a lot of element of hand into it, but whatever now is available in the market, which is, if you can see a mainstream ring frame machine, it is just a portion of that. It is cut in, like one ring frame has 1,000 sort of that kind of spindle, and you have same spindle in Ambar Charkha. So Ambar spinning is nowadays reduced almost sort of machine spinning, and in many of the places, as we all know, it is said off the record, but it is being run on electricity. So we as a Khamir was having a lot of dilemma in this, that whether we should work with Ambar Charkha or not, or we should run it on electricity. Nowadays it is being run on a solar energy also. The new term is being coined as a green khadi. But thanks to, I must say, the Archana Ben, she clarified us that don't worry, whatever you do in the base value of the decentralization. So it still holds that element. But as we are seeing nowadays that more and more women who are spinning on Ambar Charkha are having a lot of issues with their health. Many of them are facing very serious issues. So now there is a rethinking required on this Ambar Charkha, and so as the entire concept of Khadi and the decentralized spinning. Over to you, Satish.
I think I have an issue with Khadi itself, because So if you see, there are many kinds of spinning what you see in India. So you have spinners using a spindle. By using a spindle, they spin yarn. So in Ponduru, it's a very, very different elaborate process what you get to see. And in Bihar, if you see, it's more of initial mechanized process, and thereafter they do hand spinning. And Ambar Cherka is altogether a different ball game. So when you have so many different kinds of spinning in a country like India, so how can you have one name for all of this process? Because if you have Ambar Cherka also, you call it by the name of Khadi. Even Pondur also, you call it by the name of Khadi. So you are confusing people. It's you are literally confusing people. And now I hear from many people saying that because once you use the name Khadi, you are supposed to pay them some money. So it's very funny basically. So I just asked them, like, why you want to use the name Khadi? I literally feel that if you use the name Khadi, you are actually reducing the value of the product what you are making. That's how I see Khadi. Because in the process of hand spinning or in the process of weaving, there are many steps what you have to go through. Like you have ginning, you have carding, you have slimer making, you have roving, and you have yarn making. So in any place, if you just tweak it a little bit, the whole character of yarn changes. That's the beauty of hand spinning. So actually, this is something that need to be when you work with hand spinning, this is the main possibility, and you should name it as per the process. You say like hand ginned, hand processed, hand carded, hand spun khadi, and hand spun yarn. So it is very clear. Or machine ginned, hand processed, hand spun. So it is very clear. People know like what they're buying. So if you educate people better, so you'll have better clients in the future. So I think like it should be handled like this than worrying about khadi anywhere. Because I have heard like they have started machine embroidery where they are saying like giving employment is khadi. So I am really confused with the name khadi, and I don't want to get to that side.
Yes, but Satish, Khadi is the largest employer in rural areas.
First of all, to fight such people, we should never care about it. Then they'll come to at least hear what we are saying. So if we start giving them so much value, so they'll never, because they're government people, they'll never understand all these things. So I don't even want to care like how big they may be, how great they may be. I don't want to care any damn about it.
Yes, Sushma.
I think this kind of a passionate approach is really important, because it's in my view also, it's really defeating the purpose of decentralization and more people working. So Sushma, would you like to say comment something on khadi, please?
No, I just agree completely with Satish. And going back to Ghatit's question as to what would Gandhiji have done today, I think he would have rebranded it. So we need to and for me, because khadi per se is not necessarily, I repeat, looking at the primary producers. You can get cotton from non-ecological spaces and yet hand spin it, and it can be khadi, right? So I think for me, what is important and what I feel is the need of today is to ensure that our primary producers, whether they are pastoralists, whether they are farmers of indigenous, that is the space we need to expand, and that which comes into hand spun. Therefore, when you look at the entire value chain, it needs to be rebranded differently. I think there was a certain context to khadi. The context has to change, has to be refined, and has to become far more ethical than it is today.
Right.
I think Gopi is trying to ask something. Yeah. Tanveen?
Gopi, would you please ask your question? Or we are actually there's one last point, and then could we request for the comment? The last question is to Ghatit. If you would like to please speak about the spinning workshop experience that we had at Khamir with Satish, how the women responded to the blending of yarns, and how Satish motivated them to move forward with these new techniques of counting and things like that, which they were just not used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say a couple of things on the first thing about the hand spinning, and next you spoke about khadi, right? First, I think there are two different paradigms. What Satish is saying is, like Pondur is the only place where we can say it is real khadi. Rest all the places where it is happening is all bullshit. Okay, I'll be little this one about it, and I go with Satish. Unless what is this thing we are talking? Everybody is talking about value chain kind of a thing, which is all industrial and mechanist kind of thinking. If you are really talking about hands one, hand this one and all that, Panduru is the only place, nobody branded Panduru. Panduru became a brand by itself. You don't have to say, because the kind of quality of floor, the kind of things, the kind of skills which existed in this country, and the way we can go about working with short staple cotton, that knowledge system, and the kind of tools and technologies exist there. So I think these are two different streams. What has happened in our country is, even I worked extensively on the wool, what I'm seeing is that everybody is trying to mix, but unfortunately all that designer-led and all this industrial or mechanist kind of a thinking, the machines are all calibrated for not coarse and indigenous thing. So let us forget about it. If you want to do, go pure hand-on, do no mix, and with hands, the finest, superior, and the brand, people will come to you. You don't have to brand, advertise, spend money, waste all that. I think these are two different paradigms. Let us understand that, and let us say we'll go with one paradigm. Otherwise, what has happened is Gujarat and Kutch and NIDs are trying to help more industry and mechanization than the craftsmen. Okay, I'll stop here.
Okay. See, I want to say something. See, after working for 4 or 5 years in this hand spinning thing, if you think that I am very emotional about hand spinning, no, I'm more emotional about indigenous cotton. So if you just think of hand spinning as an alternative, and if you start trying to produce everything by hand spinning, the amount of cotton production what you need would be around 3%, not more than that. Because if you have around say 20,000 spinners or 30 or 50,000 spinners, the total production, 3 to 5% of total production of cotton would be enough for these people to spin. Yeah, it should be less than that. So I think it's the most important thing is getting indigenous cotton back to India is very, very important, because as per Mr. Soumik Banerjee, he told there are more than 1,000 varieties which used to be there, but now what we have is less than 15 or 20. So we have lost it in last 40 years, because as per a research paper in 1980s, so there is a detailed research report of all indigenous cottons available at that point of time, and there used to be big numbers, but now you are very limited, because BT cotton and this hybrid cotton has completely ruined our indigenous cotton. So it's very important thing is to think of different kinds of models, to different kinds of technologies that can be set up at a local level, which can also help us to little fasten the production.
May I please take audience questions? We have a lot of questions that have gathered, and the first one is from Jigisha Patel. She asks, how much cotton should be grown given the climate crisis? How to sustain it as opposed to food security? I think.
So, who can answer?
Satish, you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cotton is always grown with other crops. So it's not that when you have indigenous cotton, so you can grow with food crops. There is no issue with it. So when you actually do multi-cropping, so minimum 3 quintals you can achieve per acre. So along with that, you have a food crop where you can grow it and get the crop. So actually, it's a very right way of doing farming. So there is absolutely no issue, and we just trying to do one experiment where we are involving 5 women who does farming also, who are spinners. So they will be very particular about cotton that need to be picked up. So usually what happens, if you are not a spinner, you pick every cotton. So if you are a spinner, the way you pick cotton will also be different, and the money what they can get will be from spinning as well as cotton farming also. 6 women will be given a land of 1 acre, where I think their income levels will go high to up to more than 35%. They can earn more. So this is something what we will be doing it very soon.
Also, Tanveen,
Yes, please.
yeah, also that indigenous, first of all, I mean, I think the question was, should cotton be grown? I think we are all tending to focus on indigenous cotton. That needs to be understood. There's a difference. If you're talking of BT cotton spread and the way it has, of course that should not be grown. And of course that is eroding the food security of communities and local areas. But indigenous cotton, first of all, is always multi-crop. Secondly, it requires far less water than the BT. So you look at the water that can be used for other. So when you look at food, you have to look at it holistically. And third, most indigenous cotton pods are used for animal food and as fodder in a lot of areas. And it is important to understand when you're looking at food security, it's actually, that is why indigenous cotton provides multiple aspects of the food security,
Right.
which you don't find with the genetically modified cotton.
Yes, yes. Very quickly before I move on, Satish, could you please type the name of the researcher of the Cotton Report of 1980 or a link in the chat for everyone?
No, I
Satish is frozen.
We can't hear you, Satish. Till Satish returns, I'll take the next question.
which I can share.
Yes, please. You said, what were you saying? We couldn't hear you.
So I have to talk to Soumik Banerjee, who shared me the data. So I can't literally.
Okay. There was a question.
To
okay.
anybody. So
okay.
I just need to get a permission to say that.
Sure. The next question is, during the pandemic, many people are migrating back. Will Khameer encourage them in hand spinning and provide raw material? Ghatit, this could be a question for you.
No, unfortunately, nobody is returning to Kutch. And people actually, those who are stuck in Mumbai, they are coming back, native of, yeah, we wish to promote this hand spinning in a bigger way. And those whoever want to learn this from us, we are open for that. One thing I must say that hand spinning has a lot of possibility. And if we can do the course correction in the khadi and in a way in our entire development model, if we have done this course correction throughout this many years, the migrant would not have to walk for this many kilometers. So somewhere we need to think about the village centric local livelihood systems, and through our experience, we must say that the hand spinning is still holding that relevance in India. And there is a lot of possibility to generate meaningful village level livelihood through these processes. Yeah.
The question is, which is something that we are talking about.
I think
it's very interesting that this how can we source hand spun yarn at affordable prices? I think we need to say this whole thing again once. And how does efficiency and production slow when hand spun is used in warp?
I think once the person who asked this question should start hand spinning. So then she'll feel it's affordable price.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I think that's a very good answer. Uh, uh, what is the future of hand spinning post pandemic? Sushma, we can't hear you. Please unmute.
Yeah, I'm unmute. What Satish said is absolutely right, that we should start spinning, and it becomes viable when you're spinning it yourself and many are spinning it. But I think there is for me, hand spinning will really become a movement when the weavers, the spinners, and the farmers themselves start wearing hand spun.
Yes.
They should wear hand spun.
And they will wear it when it actually ironically becomes affordable to them. The fact the spinning itself is expensive. The fact is that our demand and supply is so skewed. There is a huge demand for hand, but we are not reaching out. And we have to remember that we can keep talking of all the self-reliance and Atmanirbharta, but the fact is that the amount of subsidies that the power looms get and mechanized systems get, and the genetically modified seeds and production of that get, the same is not passed on to all our hand processes. They cannot be Atmanirbhar without policy shifts.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. The other question that I want to take up is how can we mass produce hand spinning and hand woven fabric, and is this even what your comments?
So I think we should not mass produce like any mother. We should try to make a yarn of its own character. If you mass produce things, it's like any other industrial product. Like what is?
Oh, there is some issue, I think, with the connection.
Yeah.
Gatit, do you want to?
I think if the
uniqueness of get look like a similar kind of yarn, I don't see it.
Satish, can you hear me? We are losing you. Your image, your speech gets stuck.
Hello.
Yes. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. I think hand spinning is something what you do with a lot of love, and when you do it, it will have a personal touch. It will be different only from other guy who's doing. So the other way is you do it, everybody does it, so it will be mass produced. So I think everybody should at least spend half an hour in and do hand spinning. You can't even believe like how much yarn we can make because we have a population of 1 crore 30 more. We have a huge population who can actually, if 10% of the people take it up as a regular activity, at least for half an hour, the yarn what one produces will be lots.
Another very interesting question that has come from Shubhra Singh is she's asking if there is a platform where one can source cotton from different states of India. I think this is a great idea also. We don't have a platform as yet, right?
Are you talking of indigenous cotton?
She has asked, her first question is, what is the cotton that is sold in Khadi? Is it indigenous? And then her second question is there a platform where one can source cotton from different states of India? She's a researcher who's been working for the last 2 years on cotton hand spinning. So, yes?
I don't think there's a platform, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a great. There is a question. Yes, got it.
And Khadi is not using all the indigenous cotton. There is
Yeah.
no such parameter. They can use the BT cotton also.
Yes.
Yeah, in most of the cases that only. Most of the
Yeah,
cases,
that's what is
90% of
happening.
the khadi things what you find outside is all
Yeah.
BT only.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions coming about, I want to start spinning. Where can I get the tools? Is there any online space? I think this is an interesting question that we wanted to put up for our audience today also, is that, would they, should Khameej start an online spinning webinar or something like that? How many people would join?
Tanveen, can I ask another question with that, linked with that?
Yes, please.
No, yes, we can have lots of webinars and we can have lots of remote information going. But if everybody was to really go completely local and look around and see first whether spinning is actually continuing in their own areas, they will be surprised. It probably is.
It's probably yes. There is another question. Since we are going, this program is live on Facebook, also on our Facebook page. There is a question by Shilpa Chaturvedi. She asks specifically, what does Satish mean by spinning should not be seen as an economic activity? Women do embroidery in groups too. It is a source of income. Will encouraging this as a revenue stream not make them financially independent?
No, I am saying like just not see it as economic activity.
Yes.
So I maybe I misplaced. So you should just need to adjust. That's it.
Yes. There is somebody saying, can there be a workshop organized for hand spinning? Yes, please, Satish.
See, I think once people start making spinning, because making their own yarn, weaving is not very expensive. At least people can send it, because we have 3 years back we have done one activity where we did a lot of workshop with women, and once they made yarn, whatever it is, so we got it woven in the weft, because we have a warp, we have umber cotton, and we woven this cotton in the weft. And I have seen, though the yarn is not great, they got some beautiful things made out of it, and you can see those in their main wardrobes, because they have such a value for it. So once you do something on your own, the way you look at it will be very different.
Yes.
Maybe for people outside, they might see like, what is this? But for them, it will be very, very special.
Like I said in the beginning, your enthusiasm is infectious. Beware all our audience. Everybody will soon in the next webinar be hand spinning. I think, Satish, I think we need to plan the next webinar with a hand spinning session. Yes.
Yeah.
Actually,
Sure.
the number of people who have discovered just cooking simple food through this lockdown can now move on to actually spinning their own yarn.
Yes, that's Gatit, last question to you. You talked about health issues while using Ambar Charkha. Could you please elaborate on that?
So when you spin an Ambar Charkha, you have to sit with the charkha, and you need to put that labor in order to move that spindle to spin. And when it was introduced, it was a different time. But here, if a woman is spinning for like 6 hours, 8 hours in a khadi setup, there will be bound to have some pressure on the hand as well as the heart functioning related to that. So when we were doing this research, one of the khadi person said that we are also like allowing the charkha to be used wherever it is not possible to be used by electricity also. And then I said, how can that be done? It's a violation of basic rule of Gandhi and Khadi. Then he said, have you ever been, have you ever tried to spin on your own? I said, no. Then he said, well, आप थोड़ा try करके देखो, उसमें हाथ को कितना जोर लगता है. Similarly, there are looms where we called it a Gram Lakshmi loom or something, where you are pedal looms. So you have a lot of load on your pedals. So this kind of activities is creating a lot of issues of health. And I haven't spoke with the spinner, but Archana Ben, who visited so many spinning clusters, and she said that spinners did tell her that हमारा हाथ पूरा रात दर्द करता है ऐसा. So it's really Ambar Charkha has become a labor-intensive job
Machine.
where spinner are not using, not enjoying the artistic part of that
Right.
spinning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very great point. It's become a machine where the spinners are not enjoying the artistic part of it. Very, very well put. We
Actually,
have lots of-
the
yes.
thing what he just told is the difference between labor and skill. So that is very clearly explained by Ghatit, because which is very evident in when somebody works with Ambar Charkha, because everything is set up by somebody else. So they'll set up if they want to have 60s count, everything is set up. What they just need to do is they just rotate that wheel. It's a pure labor thing, and whenever it breaks, they just need to join it. There is no point in doing such activities. If you can use, it's better to use electric or solar power to do it. So if you have something to add on to it as an individual, because you always want to have an aspiration to add something to what you're doing. So if you don't have that, I don't think I don't think that you can call it as craft.
Fair enough. Our time is up. Our session was till 6:45. There are a few questions. That was the last question I thought, but a lot of questions are being asked about how can you differentiate between handloom and powerloom khadi, and handloom, powerloom, and khadi for handspun products, etc. Is there a quick answer that we can give?
Question is not clear. What is the question? There can't be powerloom khadi. What is?
Yes. So that's the question. Is there a way to differentiate between handloom and powerloom khadi? That's handspun and handwoven products. And there's another question. How do you find out if the yarn is spun on Ambar Charkha or the other way? And there is another question which is an easy way to differentiate between handloom, powerloom, and khadi. A lot of curiosity.
The only way is to build a relationship with the artisan. So I see you have to build a, because we can't believe anything, because what is sold as handloom is not handloom, what is sold as khadi is not khadi, unless until you have built a relationship with somebody. So like you grow something in your field. When you grow poison in your field, you can't feed it to your child. So it's as simple as that, because you have to build relationship with people around, with organizations around, with who are working in that area, so that you get aware of things around, so that there is a possibility of getting something what you really decide for.
Another very specific question from Seema Chaudhary, who asks if Khameer has tried to calculate the carbon footprint of Desi cotton handspun yarn, and if there's any data available.
Yeah, recently as part of one study of transformation of weavers, we did calculated the carbon footprint of a BT cotton as well as the Kala cotton, Desi cotton, and that data will be made available to the concerned person. Yeah.
Thank you. Ghatit, you have the Kantai Se Kamai project to talk about, please.
Yeah, we are, as I told earlier, we wish to increase the number of spinners in Kutch, and we are running this campaign through Give India platform called Kantai Se Kamai. And so far we have received a good response, and we wish to increase the number of spinners in rural areas through this campaign. Yeah.
Request everyone to please visit our Facebook page and Instagram. The links are available on that, and we will upload new links just after. Thank you very much, panel. Sushma, thank you very much for coming straight into this meeting and for all sharing all your information. Not just information, actually wisdom. Satish, thank you very much. Ghatit, thank you very much. our next webinar is on 5th June. Talks about how younger artisans of Kutch could get online to sell their products with respect to COVID. Any last words, please? Well, fine. Last words sound so serious. Any quotes?
Anyone from the audience want to speak about their experience? Or I think Rupshi wished to speak in between. Samji Bhai is there. Anybody want to say something? Yeah.
See, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, please go ahead with your question. Or
There is a question. Actually, I just want to say what Satishji was mentioning about spinning on Desi Charkha. I also spin myself, and I can do it for whole day. So it is not just about economics and livelihoods. It is about our culture, the association that we have with that cotton puni. You can feel it in your hand, how that smaller fibers are losing and that yarn is being spun. You can feel its intensity in your heart actually. So once that person starts spinning, this post and doing other things won't matter. So we associate it with physical health and mental health also. As Ghatit Bhai mentioned about artisans' health who do spinning on Ambar Charkha. So in this, we are not using any machinery. I have also seen some Ambar Charkhas. So the people who they have a lot of tools around, that screwdriver, that switch plug and all. I think the risk is more in Ambar Charkha. So it can be in different ways. And mental health, like Satishji mentioned, meditation. And similarly in loop also our both hands and both feet are working. So complete balance of body and mind. So health should not be ignored, physical health as well as mental health. So I will stop here. Although there is a lot in this.
thank you, Rupshi. This was very, 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 very touching. Thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Samji Bhai, are you there? आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे? Maybe not. So
Okay.
shall we end here? Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sushma.
Thank you,
okay.
Satish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope this initiates a small spinning movement.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Bye.
wait, please, before you go away, we have to take a photograph. The Khamid team, please open your cameras, your videos. Himali, hello. Okay, we are ready and smiling our best.
Yes, taking a screenshot.
Yes, please.
Done.
Thank you, everyone.